Good morning, my name is Sarah Humphrey, and on behalf of the Ashland County and City Boards of Health, as well as the staff, I want to thank you for being here this morning to discuss a very important topic, which is local public health consolidation. It is certainly a changing time in local public health departments across Ohio. With the current focus on continuous quality improvement, many health departments are looking toward shared services. They're doing this to explore the options to maximize the ever-shrinking funding sources, while others are looking at shared services to optimize their readiness for public health accreditation. This morning, we are fortunate to have a guest speaker who is quite familiar with both of those topics, accreditation as well as consolidation. Mr. Thomas Quade, Health Commissioner of Marion County Public Health and current President of the American Public Health Association, has vast experience in public health from all levels, globally down to locally. Prior to his leadership at Marion Public Health, Mr. Quade served as the Interim Director at Akron City, during which he successfully guided the Akron City Health Department through a year-long consolidation process with Summit County Public Health. At Summit County Public Health, he continued to bring quality public health services through his community by successfully facilitating the agency's FAB accreditation journey. I thank Mr. Quade for his willingness to share his experience in local public health consolidation. He is here to discuss the options of pursuing consolidation, including the benefits and challenges, as well as answer any preliminary questions that we have here in Ashland County. Again, I appreciate your investment in our community public health system. And again, welcome to Mr. Thomas Quade.
Good morning, everybody. I didn't bring any prepared remarks with me. I just want to tell you a little bit about what my experience has been, and then answer any questions you've got to the best that I can, recognizing that my experiences are going to be different than yours. If you've seen one health department in Ohio, you've seen one health department in Ohio, we're all a little bit different. That's one of the things that makes Ohio the wonderful and interesting state it is. But it also provides lots of opportunities to find ways in which we can be complementary with one another, find best fits between unique situations. I've had an opportunity in Akron and Summit County to be part of a merger where the county contracted with the city. It's been very successful since. I mean, we learned some things along the way. It was one of the first mergers in a long time in Ohio, and I think there have been a couple of others prior to that. But we're seeing a lot more of them as we move forward. Once upon a time, I think we had 128, 129 health departments. We're down to about 117, 118 now. I suspect the magic number is probably closer to about 100. And that's going to depend on, it's not an arbitrary goal or anything. It depends on each unique county and what the benefits are. In Marion County, I came in a year after their consolidation. Theirs was a different process. It was a voter initiative. As a voter initiative, they needed to generate a lot of voter interest. And unfortunately, the way we sometimes do that is say, well, this health department is doing a really bad job, and this health department is doing a really good job, and blah. Either way, it can come together. And down in Marion, it's been fine. We're 5 years out, from 6 years out from that consolidation, and I would mark it as a success as well. We recently surveyed all of our partners, private, public, both, the general public as well, and everybody says, hey, we're in a stronger place. We've got a better reputation. We're more efficient. We cost less. Actually, down in Marion, our overall general fund contribution to the running of the health department for the city, I think before the merger, was about $500,000, and now it's about $360,000. I mean, who does that over the course of 5 or 6 years? It doesn't generally go down. Now, I will say right off the bat, no guarantees you save money when you do this. What you're looking for is efficiencies. As I've learned from the conversation so far, you all are basically consolidated already. The thing that you haven't yet done is been able to take advantage of some of the administrative stuff, the bureaucracy stuff, and that's the stuff that just kind of wasted money and time and effort. the process that you do, it sounds like you're kind of doing that across the board anyway. I mean, the Akron Public Health Services, the folks that you see, the food services that you inspect, the wells and septic and all that stuff, whatever it is you're doing, you're already doing, and really with the same people. It's sort of if I understand correctly, this week you get that paycheck from them, and this week you get the paycheck from them. So, you know, we all get to where we are for a variety of reasons, and I'm happy to come up and talk to you all about about what you're going through and answer questions that you've got. I know there's issues with, typically when we talk about consolidation, it's money and it's control. Are these two big ones? And yeah, maybe other things that are big question marks. Yes.
I know one of the concerns is for consolidation in particular is the city charter and how it's written. And I believe I sent you a copy of that charter language as well. Can you talk to how Summit County, if there was language in Akron City that was similar, and how they were able to face that challenge, and what you could see would be a solution or possible ideas?
So one, I'll share the experience. I'll share the solution we came up with, and I'll share the outcome we came up with, and kind of play it out and see how it might work out down here. Again, you're kind of crystal balling a little bit in terms of being able to look to the future. But in the city of Akron, it was a charter city as well. The charter said, thou shalt have a health department. But then our charter, I think, went into even more specifics than I think my understanding of yours did, where ours defined what that health department was. And it said your health department will consist of a director of health, and that director of health will be hired by a health commission, a board of health, essentially. That's about all it said. And it will assure the public health services are provided throughout the city of Akron. So what we did is we said, okay, well, let's work with what we've got. Let's not. We did what we didn't want to do, because we had political will, is we didn't want to make the consolidation a ballot issue, because we didn't want to have to change the charter in order to affect the consolidation, because we already had the political will, and that's really one of the hardest parts to get. Once you have that political will, what we did is we said, all right, let's say we can still maintain that city board of health, that city health department really is now just the Board of Health, that health commission, those 5 people that are appointed by the mayor, approved by the city council, that became our Akron Health Department. That Akron Health Department then contracted with an individual, our health commissioner didn't have to be full-time. I don't think yours went into any of that sort of detail. But what they did is our medical director in Akron, we said, hey, 4 hours a month, we'll pay, I was like, $10 an hour. I mean, it was nothing. It was just sort of, they're paid, so they have a responsibility. And what that person did, that was our quote-unquote health director for the city of Akron. What that person did is they then went and attended all the Summit County Board of Health meetings on a monthly basis. And their charge was to then go back and be able to answer city council questions or whatever about what the health department was doing. I actually thought this was really interesting, because up to that point, the city council didn't really care what the city of Akron Health Department was doing, because we sort of did what we did, and they understood that, and there was never really any conflict. But this added a little bit of layer, but it gave that Board of Health, that Akron Health Department, a responsibility. We didn't eliminate them. They're still in the charter. They had yet to, I'm a resident of the city of Akron, voted a voter up there, but I worked down in Marion, so not to be confusing. We haven't had a ballot referendum on the charter, changing it. At this point, it's just sort of a matter of who's going to take the time to do that. I mean, I'd be inclined to go, hey, let's have a charter amendment and do it with the Board of Health in Akron, because between us, that board hasn't actually even met in the last 2 or 3 years, because there's no need. They recognized as that group of folks that had this big concern of control, they said, well, wait a minute. They're doing the same things we've always done. They're doing them the same way we've always done them. Because our staff really combined, and yours already have combined essentially, they're the same individuals doing it. being held to the same standards, being supervised by the same people, right? So the Akron Board of Health just sort of stopped meeting. They're still there. And one of these days we'll get around to doing a charter amendment and saying, well, we really don't need this body anymore. So that's how we handled it there. And it was really the initial conversation was that it would be that board that would approve the contract between the County Board of Health and the City of Akron. Because that's how we handled the money part of it, the responsibility part of it. We said, all right, so the we changes depending on the date. Prior to consolidation, I was the Interim Health Director of the City of Akron. So what we said is, from the city's perspective, we can still control our costs by saying, what's been the trend of our spending on public health in the City of Akron? What have we spent, either per person in the City of Akron, on public health in the City of Akron? So now we know what our cap is. And we say, all right, this is the amount per year that we're gonna then contract with the county to provide those public health services. Again, same people, same services, same state code, same everything, same regulatory processes. So at that time, the city was paying, well, it was trending down. This was 2008, so we had already lost a lot of folks, and the economy had tanked and all of this. So we were, I think the City of Akron was paying a little bit more than $4.2 million per year to run the Akron City Health Department. So they said, okay, county, you provide those services to us, not to exceed $4.2 million, right? So the city's then controlled its cost as if it didn't consolidate, but now it doesn't have essentially all of that liability for having your own department. You've got employees you got to look out for. You've got jobs. You've got all of this stuff that happens when you've got those employees, the city employees, that you don't have when you're contracting with the county to do it. Those people still have jobs, and my understanding is you're not looking at a restructure in terms of personnel. And again, when I was getting caught up on this, it sounds like you've done all of the 9/10 of the work already. It's just kind of a matter of signing off on some of the pieces parts. So hey, if that's a good news piece, that's a good news piece. So that's how we did it up there. We didn't disband the Akron Board of Health. We met the city charter. We're still abiding by the city charter, and it actually kind of pointed us in a direction of how best to do the consolidation. Yes, sir.
What are the efficiencies that you get?
Well, all right. So any of the administrative stuff that you do that is applicable, whatever sort of entity you are. You've got payroll. You've got keeping time. You've got any of the legislative stuff. You've got things like accreditation, right? It would be one. We all have to go through accreditation. The state says so. You've got to do it by a certain date. For the way you're currently structured, you're basically doing it twice. And this is not a little thing, right? I mean, we're finishing up our document collection down in Marion, and I was the Accreditation Coordinator up in Summit County when I was Deputy Commissioner up there. We're talking about between 350, 400 documents. Sometimes it's an email, but sometimes it's a big report, whatever. Collecting all of those, putting the narrative on, uploading them, you're doing it twice because you really have to be accredited both as the County Health Department and the City Health Department. And since you're really functioning as one health department, your fate is kind of going to be dictated by the other. So even something like that, and that's not, it's one example, but it's a huge example. Because by the time if you were to capture all of the time spent on accreditation, some of which is stuff that you should be doing anyway, but some of it's stuff that you might wait till next year to do, kind of thing. You're spending in terms of man hours, 100 grand. Why double it? I mean, it's just one of those things. Let's just do this and call us one entity and show one document as opposed to two. Yeah.
Might I add to that? So many of our programs, particularly in environmental health, are subject to surveys from the Ohio Department of Health. And so as an agency who is essentially two different agencies, we get surveyed on some of those programs twice. So we get 2 swimming pool surveys, 2 food surveys, so we're actually getting, that to occur to us, much to her dismay, twice.
Yeah.
And then as a result of that as well is some of our cost methodologies are different from county to city. So unfortunately, if you own a food service inside the city limits as opposed to county, your food license may differ and do more times than not.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of adds that.
I hadn't even thought about that, the auditing thing is a huge fit, and not even just for the program auditing, the fiscal auditing of the agency. I mean, this is about, I mean, this is the prime example for folks who say this is government waste and bureaucratic excess. You know, again, that's generally a driver for folks consolidating, and again, you've already done everything except that piece of it. So, yeah, it's, I mean, there's nothing left in the way that you've got it designed right now, except that waste that can be pulled out. Some of the other questions y'all have? Yes, sir.
You talked about the contractual,
Yeah.
there are,
There are, yeah, right. So there are a number of different methods. I'm not an expert on all of them. I was asked to come down, I think, as a product of a training video, right? That was scripted, so it's that was not extemporaneous. So I did bring it so that I can read it if you want to know the specific language. Basically, there are a couple of different ways. You can have a voter-driven one, right? That says, by such and such a date, you will be one health department, figure it out, right? And by the way, you'll be called that, you just need to figure it out by the time you get there. You have some that do it contractually, and that's the way that we did it up in Akron. There are, you can essentially just eliminate the city health department, and by default, it's served by the county. Now that said, you're adding costs. It's not oh, let's do that, and then the city doesn't have to pay anything. It doesn't work, will not work that way. The crux of it is, no matter how you do it, the money will be about the same, the control will be about the same. It's the how do we get to sustain it, and that's why I'm sort of I like the idea of doing a contract with maybe a 3-year or a 5-year lookout to say, you know, every 5 years we're going to open it. Now, so in Marion, there was a voter referendum, the electorate said you will be one health department. The way they did it, because Marion County Health Department was based, it was all inside millage, percent of property tax. The city was essentially just a city expense because it was part of the city administration, even though it answered to its own board. I mean, that's always been a big problem too for a lot of health departments is you function, you know, personnel, payroll, et cetera, maybe actually go through the city, but you answer to not the mayor or city council, so that gets a little funky. But what we did in Marion is we said, well, let's do it so that the city will pay the proportion that it paid. If you were to combine budgets of both the city and the county, in talking about Marion, and say the city paid X number of dollars, the county entities paid X number of dollars. In Marion, the city was paying about $550,000. The county was paying probably about half. Well, it was about half of that. So when you put them together, the city was paying 2/3 of the general fund. The county was paying 1/3 of the general fund. Well, then the city had a reasonable expectation that, well, when we consolidate, wait a minute, you know, you make the argument that none of the things we address respect geopolitical lines, and they don't, right? We're serving the whole county. The disease you prevent, or the health behavior you want to change, or the restaurant even the restaurant may have a city address, but people in the county are eating there, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with that. So the city said, wait, why are we paying 2/3 of the costs of, well, this is the general fund portion of the health department. Make no mistake that that's one of the smaller portions of our overall budget. Our overall budget is about $2.3 million, and the GF is about $660,000. But the city said, well, wait a minute, we shouldn't be paying this much. So when I went back, we reopened that contract and said, over the course of the next 4 years, we're gonna phase it, we're gonna step it out, so that it was a per capita ratio. The city made up 52%, 53% of the county population. But, right, we're dealing with people, we're protecting the population's health. The city should be paying no more than that percentage of the total GR. So, in our case down there, the county had to step up over the course of the next 3-4 years and add 1% or 2% to their contributions. And right now we're balanced so that the city and the county are both paying a per capita dollar amount. That's not how it's calculated. I mean, that would be nice, because then, that'd be about as easy math as you can do, right? We just keep the census, and, for every individual, you pay $1. It's not, it's like 11 or something. But what we did is so we opened up the contract to be able to capture that, and that's the advantage for us. And when we wrote it, there were a couple of things that we did. We added the health department, the Board of Health, as a signatory to their contract, because before the contract, because of the way it was merged, was just between the DAC and the city. The health department wasn't even a signatory to the contract, right? So, that was an opportunity that I saw when I got down there. I said, oh, hey, while we're doing this here, and all I did was I just added a line at the bottom that said, Marion Board of Health President, so-and-so in the date line, and the county prosecutor looked at it and said, well, that makes sense, and so we did it. So now all of a sudden, it's a contract. So yeah, it can be reopened when 2 of the 3 signatories want to reopen it, or at the end of 5 years, we say, probably time to take a look at it. Because, we tend to not do that. So we say, oh, it's not broken, don't fix it. Sometimes it's broken or not broken. No matter what, the only thing that makes it work is communication on the front end, right? Don't let it be a big thing before you have the conversation, before you pick up the phone call and say, hey, I have a question about, this question's about, turn into big things a year later. If you want, I can find those other examples. It's legislative language, and everybody's code, and it doesn't functionally matter that differently. Yes, sir.
Okay, the way it works here is we have 5 members on the county side, 5 members on the city side, and I'm a member of the county side, one of the 5. In the agenda every month of the meeting, there may be city business and city-only business. And I sit across and watch these 5 work very, very well together and come up with a decision. Me being the county guy, I don't want to be involved in that decision.
Yeah.
I don't feel that I should be making decisions or voting for something that's going on in the city and vice versa. I don't want some city people coming out here to my county and saying, well, this is the way we, and say they moved into another area. Well, this is the way we used to do it. I don't care. This is actually county line.
Okay, that's a good one. Can you give, so I have a place to put that and hang on to it.
Yeah.
Can you give me a specific example of what that business was that was
Well, they were looking
relevant to
at
the city
tearing
but
a
not
house
relevant?
down.
They were
Tearing a house
closer.
down.
House condemnation.
Okay, do you do that in the county as well?
We do more city variances.
But you have that authority to do that in the county if there's a, okay. all right.
Second part to that.
Yeah,
I had heard talk of, not necessarily here, but in other boards, instead of having 5 and 5 for equal representation, to decrease the size of the board. Well, we're all one board now, so let's have 8. Yeah, we're going to stick with 5 and 5 if we're going to do this. That's
That
going
would
to be
be-
my position.
no, that's a very common position. That was a position in Akron of the city council. It wasn't quite exactly like that. We had 5 members, because the boards were constructed differently. In Akron, the board, we had 5 people. In Southern County, the board was already, oh gosh, I want to say 17 or 19. It was a good-sized board for the county. Some of them were representing specific villages and townships, and some were at large kind of things and so forth. And the licensing council and all this sort of thing. The city council said, wait a minute, their issue was not so much as the size of the board, which is fairly arbitrary. I mean, it is that size because someone at one point in time said it should be the size. I don't know that 17 people made any better decisions than 9 people or 5 people would. But what the city council in Akron a couple of the members said, well, wait a minute, we're contributing 40% of the budget in GR. We should have 40% of the seats. Very good logic. Until you start to then say, well, tell me what it is that, and to what end? Let's take a look at the evidence. Public health is an evidence-based kind of thing. You say, what has history taught us up to this point? And how should that guide our thinking moving forward? So what we did is we said, let's take a look historically at all the board actions over the past 5-10 years. Was there any dissent on anything? And if so, what were those dissenting votes? There was no dissent. So it was really, I mean, it was an emotional or psychological, I want to have control, but control over something that, I mean, it didn't change, it wouldn't have changed in the outcome. The other thing that I would suggest is the city is part of the county, right? I mean, it's within the county. If you have a situation where you have a county service that serves the whole county, it doesn't distinguish between county and city, right? I mean, there are examples of some county, I don't know, maybe engineers or something. I don't know how Ashland's set up, but there are going to be some issues where you have a county public entity that provides services that don't distinguish between. So then I guess the question would be, what makes health different about that? Especially when you have same codes, same due diligence responsibilities of the board, the fact that those board members aren't going to be the individuals that we're talking about, whether it's the 5 people or the 17 people or 19 people. Every 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to have rotations, so the individuals are going to change, right? So this is just one of those challenges of change, right? That you may have 5 people on the board right now that believe one thing one way, but 3 or 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to have 5 different people on the board that may believe something different. It has nothing to do with their city or county, right? So what we did in the end of the story for the Akron Summit County experience, and it wasn't easy to get there, but history bore us out, is when the county health department was formed, in whatever Ashland came to be, the idea was that you'd have representatives from villages and townships and whatnot. The only thing different between a city and a village and a township is its size. If we weren't based on if Ashland City wasn't a charter city and whatnot, there would be one vote. It'd just be a big village or a big township. There'd be one vote on that thing. That's the argument we made in the city of Akron. And once they realized that, number one, history showed that it's not going to matter, that made it easier. Once we made sure that we had political will enough that it wasn't going to be some next candidate's talking point against somebody. They gave up X number of seats when they were, if it wasn't a political talking point, it was just looking at the function. One member from the city of Akron that sits on the Summit County Board of Health. There's still not been a dissenting vote. They're providing the same services in the same way across the county. The representative serving that represents Akron on that now, whatever it's either 18 or 20 member Board of Health in Summit County has not dissented from any of the votes. So it's one of those, it's a thought shift to say, well, we're giving something. You're not giving anything up, ultimately. You still have the same control of the money because it's a contract. It's not that Board of Health member. It doesn't matter if you've got 5 members on the Board of Health or 1 member on the Board of Health. It's the contract that says we're not going to spend more than this dollar amount, or depending on how you write it. That's how I would, how I would have it. If you're the city, say we're only going to spend this dollar amount. But the fact is that your every dollar spent from those city dollars and every dollar spent from those county dollars are protecting everybody that lives in that county from the hazards that are present for all of them. Because people in the county go to the city, people in the city go to the county. The mosquitoes fly across, follow. Number three, okay.
This is more of a statement than anything else.
Certainly.
I really, being a Board of Health member, I really would like to see a referendum on the ballot put to the people of the county and the city. Honest honestly saying, look, this isn't going to save us any money. It's just going to be administrative. It'll make this easier and that easier and that easier. And hopefully, there won't be any change in government, the way it's governed.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's,
so, and I'm not in a position to say good idea, bad idea, whatever. That's your business, not mine. I would ask the question, what's the value added of that process? I mean, I'm assuming that it comes at an substantial expense.
I'm a home rule guy, and I don't think that politicians and board members should be making decisions for those people.
Okay, no, that's right. So it's
Send
a
it to them, sell them one way, sell them the other way, and let them make a decision.
okay. So yeah, I value that. It's a little bit. It's interesting that as a board member, you're appointed to represent individuals and make a decision on
And I
behalf of
wasn't
those.
appointed by the public.
No, but even more so, right? That the decisions you're making not related to consolidation on a regular basis, you're representing a government entity. You've been appointed by, elected somebody, right? The AC, okay. So you've been appointed by somebody who, as a member of a body that was originally elected by their folks, but you're still making those decisions. So this is a much bigger one. I get that. But I think it's a matter of scale. It's really probably the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, but I sure as heck don't do the bidding of anybody who appointed me.
Oh, no, nor should you. I applaud that.
I'm on the public side.
I remind my board that once they're appointed, they're a citizen board. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's what boards should be doing. You're not just 3 times the voice of that person that appointed you. That they should be sitting on the board if that were the case, right? Oh shoot, I was gonna. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yes.
So what Mr. Harmon is referring to would be more of a combined general health department, which then would lose, maybe I'm using the wrong word, but that, I guess, I feel like you would like to retain representation by percentage of the city, but based on becoming a combined,
That would only have.
right, that's
would
no
only
longer,
have
so
one,
it's
yeah.
almost as if you couldn't actually have both of what you're asking for. Is that my understanding?
That's my understanding as well. That's a good point. If you give the voters that power to make that decision, when they do that, what you're doing is saying that you've got now a combined general health district, which really makes the city, essentially what I was referring to earlier, it makes the city a village and a township as it relates to the county board of health.
So to retain that
Which
voice,
actually
right.
you kind of may, whether you want to keep it as clean as possible and talk about the efficiencies, what you may be doing in terms of full disclosure of what that process is saying, but now you're going to only have one vote. You're going to likely be funded, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how the funding would work in terms of that, but it would be, I suspect, uniform across the county, and probably tied to either have it become levy supported, which is a challenge, or inside millage, but the same inside millage around across the way. Which again, what we did in Marion with our contract, they're both both the city's revenue that supports the health department, that's based on inside millage, and the county through the AC, their inside millage that goes to support the health department. It's all inside millage. But what we do, because we have a specific dollar amount that we get from the city, we go to the county auditor, they calculate to get to that dollar amount, and it's a different inside millage rate for the city. Yeah.
But you said they had a contract in Akron.
In Akron, both of them, yeah, they're both done by Akron.
They're the same way with Akron having one board.
Yeah, Akron is in Summit County, Akron represents, the population of Akron now is, well, it's hanging on to about 200,000. Population of the county as a whole, 650,000. So it's not quite a third, but almost a third of the population. It represented at that time, and the city's costs have actually come down subsequent, but now it represents well, something less than 40% of the general fund is going to the health department. So it's still, whether you're saying 30% of the population or 40% of the GR going to the department, it still has one vote. Like I said, that person's never had an issue. And honestly, I mean, half the staff that work for the county health department are city residents. I mean, there's lots of checks and balances in here. And I get that when we talk about saying, are we a city health department or a county health department or both, some of it is kind of the name. Most of it is really the name. The service is the same, the people that provide them the same. You know, in your case, I wouldn't expect, again, not an expert, that anybody's salaries, positions, titles, authorities, you know, whatever, credentials, anything else, none of that's going to change. It's really a matter of how many times do you want to do payroll, how many times do you want to be audited, how many times do you want to make sure this board approves this resolution and this board approves that resolution. And both, by the way, both boards have to come and watch the other board do their business. I mean, there's a lot of that sort of kind of to what end, what's the value of that, the value added of that? I don't know. I mean, again, not my decision, not my business, but yeah.
When you, in Akron, when they contract with Summit County, did then Summit County have to become accredited?
Okay, now, so it was, this predated the had to unaccredited, okay? For better or for worse, I'm a big supporter of public health accreditation. I am not a big supporter of the fact that our states have, mandated it. I think public health accreditation is a quality improvement kind of thing, and that we should all be aspirational to do something better tomorrow than we did today, right? And accreditation helps us do that, sets us up to do that. Be that as it may, when I was at Summit County, and this is something to think about too, maybe, depending on how much consolidation might impact staff. Because there's, the questions you have are valid. Some of the staff may still have questions as well. How's this going to change my world? I think the answer is probably not much. But what we did when we consolidated in Summit County and Akron is I went to my new boss. I didn't have a boss going into that because I was the interim director in Akron. But I went to my new boss, the health commissioner of Summit County. I said, look, we need a common story. We need a common history, right? We need that thing that we've achieved as a combined health district, this new merged health district. And so we said, let's do accreditation. Because number one, you're demonstrating to the public, we're providing the standards as they're set up at the national level. These are national standards set up by practitioners, not the government. It's a non-governmental thing, public health accreditation. So these are practitioners that said, all health departments should hit this minimum basic standard of services. Well, we just consolidated. We're going to go back to the public and say, hey, by the way, we can do this. We've got this down, right? And so that was the timing of that. My health commissioner at the time, he said that was probably a little ambitious. It was just 3 weeks ago we merged. And I said, yeah, but we can do this. And what we ended up doing as a merged health department, consolidated health district, that's what we called it in our common speak. You basically have a year from the time you say we're going to pursue it to the time you submit all your documentation. We did it in 3.5 months because we were demonstrating that we had this capacity. We also, in doing that, said we've got the city's way of doing stuff and we've got the county's way of doing stuff. Most of the time it was the same, but some of our processes between point A and point B were different. Going through that going through the accreditation process, when we had to describe what our process was for doing everything we did, it made us look at it and say, well, which of these processes is more efficient? Which produces a better outcome? And so at the end of the day, some of it was the way the city did it, some of it was the way the county did it. But we documented that through consolidation. So Summit County was actually the first county in Ohio to become accredited. It was also the 14th health district in the country to become accredited. And we did that basically to demonstrate the value of consolidation. So I think, and again, for you all, that would be, in terms of the timing, that would be a huge driver for me if I'm sitting in your seat. Is because now the state has, says you have to do it by such and such a date, and the earlier you do it, the earlier your subsidy is going to go up from the state. and the earlier you do it, you're gonna get, this benefit or this break from the state. That's, in my opinion, as an observer, that's saying the why now. The why in my, again, as an observer, the why is obvious. Cut your bureaucracy in half, your administrative processes in half. The why now is the accreditation piece.
So Akron never had to become accredited, it was Summit County that became accredited.
Right, because Akron was Summit County by the time we did it.
And with the state mandating that all health departments become accredited, this seems like it would be a driving force to move this forward.
Well, and I'll tell you, that's not my deal lost on the state. There's a reason, there is a reason the state has mandated accreditation in Ohio. And as much, there's a camera on me and I'm going to say this anyway. As much as I'd like to say that's because of their interest in continuous quality improvement, there is another driver to that. And I won't go so far out of the limits to say, there's a magic number, we have too many health departments and those that don't get accredited lose their state funding and you're on your own. Well, good luck, right? If you don't get your state funding, and that includes grants and everything else, okay? That's a strong stick. The state is very interested in not having to be responsible for 118 health departments. And in many cases, that makes sense. I'll stand with them. In this case, again, as an observer, it makes absolute sense. And yes, they mandated accreditation to get health departments like this to consolidate. Again, I believe that that's the case. Again, be that as it may, it's not a bad thing. It's, I may not approve of the way we got there, but I'm a big supporter of accreditation. I'm a big supporter of government efficiency. Because I'm a good steward of public dollars as a health commissioner myself. I'd much rather spend those dollars on programming or on another public service that actually adds value to the public's health, education, tax collection, whatever. So, yeah. But no, Akron didn't have to become accredited. In Summit County, we actually had 3 health departments that merged with Department and City as well, and they didn't have to become accredited because by the time we pursued it, we were one health department. There was earlier mention about shared services. That's essentially what most of what you're doing anyway, right? Whether it's I'm running this program here, this grant came to this health department, but the staff is providing it both, and you're sharing within the family as opposed to saying, hey, we're one family.
Stan was saying it's like $20,000 to get accredited.
I'm not sure the amount, but it's not cheap.
All right, so there's the accreditation fee in and of itself, it's not cheap. But then there's the man hours invested in going through the process, right? Because you've got an accreditation coordinator who's going to have a lot of dedicated time, maybe not a full-time position, probably wouldn't be for a year, but could be anywhere. I mean, again, I know what I'm talking about with this accreditation stuff. I did an accreditation coordinator for Summit. My health department in Marion, when I went down to interview for the job, I said, I told them, I'm not coming here unless you tell me that you're interested in becoming accredited. And again, this is before the state mandated it. I said, I won't take the job if you're not on board with this. Because that's, prior to the legislative mandate, that was a challenge for a lot of boards. And they said, okay. But there's so in Marion, and it's scheduled by size of the health or size of the population. So I don't know what your accreditation fee is. Do you know? 15-ish.
15,
Yeah, 14,
yeah,
15.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's just the fee,
Right.
right? You need somebody who's going to manage the process. It is a lot of process to manage. And that person is not just sort of collecting documents that people drop off in their office. That person's training those people as to why that document will work, why that won't. It's getting the whole team involved. In Marion, every single person in my health department has been responsible for providing some documentation that is evidence of the work that they do, that we're using as part of accreditation. Each one of those people then spends an hour, 10 hours, whatever, finding that, polishing up, make sure it makes it, writing a description of why it connects the dots and all this, submits it, reviews it, a lot of man hours. So I would be hard pressed to say any health department if they didn't say, all right, if the health department said, we're only doing this for accreditation and log those hours, 100 grand. If there's, and again, I don't think there's anything in that big long list of that's so hard to accomplish. I don't think there's anything we shouldn't be doing. Every single thing on that list is something public health should be doing. It's the time taken to demonstrate that we're doing it. That's the hard one. It buys you more time, it buys you really goodwill with the state. I'll tell you that right now. Every time the state has been challenged and has budged, it has been to help folks be successful in consolidation. Because again, that's, in my perspective, talk with the folks that I know at the state, that's what's driven the legislative mandate to become more accredited, is to consolidate health districts. Well, I mean, I'll say it's in my humble opinion. Yeah, and that's all it is. I'm not the person that put forth the language. And it has had a lot of benefit. I don't want to say, suggest that it hasn't. It has. Not the way I do it. But I don't like somebody else telling me how to do my business. So I got it. I mean, I get it. Yeah. Doesn't mean that I do my business differently than the way they're telling me, right? I don't want to take that list, take that option off, right? I mean, those two don't have to be mutually exclusive. I just go, okay, yeah, you're telling me I have to.
So outside of our state funding, what other funding can these health departments lose by not becoming accredited?
It's my understanding that, all right, number one, there's subsidy, right, which may or may not be a meaningful dollar amount, right, because Ohio is, I think, either 49 or 50 have been per capita spending on public health. Some states $3 or $4. I think Ohio's 17, 18 cents. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a slap in the face, but it is what it is. So you lose your state subsidy. It's my understanding that you would no longer be eligible for things like the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant, WIC. For us, WIC is probably 25% of our budget. It all goes in and out, but it provides services and employs people. You wouldn't be eligible for that because although it's a national program, it comes to the states, it's initiated to the state. Any of the grants that come through the state. So even your CDC grants, if you've got pioneering health communities and creating health communities or that sort of stuff, SECA money, essentially anything that's not a contract that you can generate by providing a fee for service or a state mandated fee. There's even talk, and it hasn't really developed anywhere because I think that legally they can get themselves in a mess, about saying if you're not an accredited health department, then the state can step in and say even the regulatory things we're going to assign to another health department. Now, the local health departments, the health commission know each other really fairly well and support each other in the work we do, and that's why I'm here today. I mean, it's just because we want to help each other be successful. I don't know too many health departments that go, yeah, I'll go ahead and poach their business. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, Marion County is not accredited, so you're going to do their food inspections. No, thank you. I got my hands full with our food inspections, right? So I don't know how that would play out, but they've been talking about it. It would pretty much drive you out of business.
I think there's a little danger in trying to conflate community accreditation with consolidation. I think that's a great, we need to be accredited no matter what. We just say the cost by doing it. They are two different things. The consolidation is one that, from a business perspective, makes sense. The accreditation piece, the product, the experience, the way it will change your health department, again, from a business perspective, makes sense. You will be a stronger health department having gone through accreditation and becoming good. You will, guarantee it. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. But yeah, the state saying if you're not accredited, you're going to lose your money. You lose your money, you don't have a health department, right? So, consolidating, if it creates an advantage to you through consolidating to become accredited. Yeah.
But we're moving forward on accreditation even as two health departments right now, even
Yeah.
as we speak. So we're not letting any grass grow here.
Yeah, that's good. Because the
I
class is
suppose
taken
it
on
would
that.
be expedient to do it once instead of twice.
Yes, yeah. It would be, because if you think about the comment earlier about the audits you've got, right? Somebody from the state comes up and audits the food program. Actually, different people from the state come, you got Ag and Ohio Department of Health, right? So number one, that's another issue. That's their duplication of services. But think about if you had somebody come in and audit every single thing the health department does. Now double it. Right? You know, some of it you could probably use twice, but none of your board stuff you could use twice. None of your fall short on example, but most of it you couldn't use twice. So you're coming up with different examples that are specific to different communities. Your community health assessment, unless it's a one that everybody's been part of, and I don't know if it is or not. It is. That was smart. That's good. Gotta get health having one common, but it also it does underscore the idea of having a consolidated health department. You have one community health assessment because you're a community. Doesn't mean that the city looks like the county. It doesn't. But it doesn't mean that in a city that this block looks like that block. That's not the intent.
I hate to put a stop to the accreditation topic, by all means I will continue it, but just going back real quick to the consolidation structures. If you could recap kind of what a contract would look like. So a contract is, there would be no city increase to fees. We would simply move over the general fund allotted to public health as part of as the contract cost. They could determine how many representatives of the city would sit on the board. It would fall within the confines of the charter, depending on the language, and not necessarily need a referendum to vote. Whereas a combined general health district would go to the voters. There would be some financial workings there because we do have an outside millage levy.
Yeah, so, right, if you were to kind of go back to the how to get from point A to point B, if you did the contract, then the city board and the county board could actually sit down and say what makes sense in terms of the operation of the health department, and then present that to the actual folks that are going to be signing off, because it would be I'm assuming it would be the DAC chair with approval from the DAC, and it would be the mayor with approval of city council. But you don't want them writing the contract. So what you would do is you would take a look at and say, what controls do we put in on the finances? What's the city been paying? What's the trend? I mean, if you just had a dip and it's been higher, don't know that this year the city paid. But take a look at that trend. What's a reasonable expectation? Now that's just for the general revenue part that the city's paying in. If you have that contract, again, you could write it however, but once you become one health district, your cost methodology for your fees is a single cost methodology that's applicable across the board. So, again, that's one more thing you don't have to do twice. You can have one set of fees for everything, whether that grocery store is on this side of the line or that side of the line, or that restaurant's on this side or that side, or that pool is on this side or that side. So you have one set of fees. The contract, the money exchange is really just what you would have got, what the city would have gotten from that. How do you get the city is funded by what?
The city is funded through the income tax, is that correct, Larry?
Comes for the general fund of
Through
the
the general
city.
fund.
Okay, but it's based on essentially a budgeted item. It's not on a rate or anything. No, it's just this is what you got last time. We're all going up or all going down. Okay. So the contract would allow you to essentially run it that same way, except the contract would dictate,
I mean, either follow a trend. I mean, if the trend the last decade has been every year it goes up 0.5%, then the contract could say, well, we'll follow that. Or the contract could say, we tie it to consumer price index, or we just set it at this one amount for the next 3 years and then reevaluate it, or blah, blah, blah. You know, so you can control the city costs on that. All of the administrative costs, personnel, the purchase orders, I mean, all of that kind of stuff would go to the county. That would be, it would treat it just like any other village or township. So in that regard, I suspect the city is probably doing administrative functions for the health department that it is not recuperating costs for. I mean, just pushing the paper around when somebody gets hired, right? All of that is now part of the county health district because they're all county employees, county health department. So all of that would be dictated. Our contract between the city of Akron and Summit County says the city of Akron agrees to pay an amount not to exceed, and again, this is what it was, not to exceed $4.2 million. The Summit County Health Department is expected to provide all of the public health services in the city that provides in the county. On the front end, before we consolidated, we did an audit to say, well, what programs are we providing in the city that were not in the county? And made the decision to shed those and put them in the city. We had a housing program in the city of Akron. The county didn't have a housing program. So rather than saying, well, do we have one health department that does some things in one place and different things in a different place? We said, no, we're not going to do that. The city had a housing program for a reason. So that program, including the people that worked in that program and everything else, just became with the Department of, I think it was planning or something, within the city of Akron. So they absorbed those people, those costs of that whole program. So now the two health departments, in terms of programs, look exactly alike. Again, the part that was challenging for us, you guys have already done. It's a who does what, who reports to whom, what's the hierarchy, do we have as many supervisors as they do, and blah, 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 blah. You know, all that stuff. And again, I gotta tell you, even when you do have that stuff, it works its way out over time, because there was a great big brouhaha up in Akron when we combined our org charts and somebody counted and said, well, with the exception of our interim director, Tom Quade, we don't have anybody in the top of the org chart. Well, if you look at the org chart today, and almost everybody with the exception of 2 people are all city people, or all former city people. They came over at the merger and just worked their way up. It was a natural evolution because we could care less if you're consolidated or not. Somebody happened to apply for a job for the city instead of the county because it was open at that time. Otherwise, they would have been the other. So a lot of this is kind of
I really hate to be a pest.
No, be a pest.
$4.2 million
yeah.
not to be exceeded. Who decides when that money has been exceeded?
But no. I mean, the city's not going to give you more than $4.2 million.
I know. Costs of their costs or whatever, but we are $4.2 million.
Well, that's what I said. That's why you reevaluate the contract over time. You trend back to the city. You have to have that communication. You say, well, this year it was only 3.8, or last year was 3.8. This year it was, 4 million. Next year our budget says it's going to be 4.1. We better sit down and talk about this and blah, blah, blah. And then the city looks at it and says, well, our budgets have increased or decreased this way, blah, blah, blah. Had you still been with us, you would have been costing us such and such. And you put that back together. And just like any other contract negotiation, you got to prove your worth and you got to prove what you're willing to pay for somebody to do something. On the county side, they have to say, we're not padding this. We're worth this investment. And the city says, what would it cost if we didn't have this and had to return to have our own health department? It costs a heck of a lot more than $4.2 million. Right? So it's just a negotiation like any other contract. It's a big number, and consequential, but you do it the same way. And again, it's communication, relationship, and forecasting. But that's true with anything we do. Yeah. Like I said, these are 2 examples, and I know every county is different, but they're alike in more ways that they're different. We call out the differences, but we all kind of have the same differences, so in that way we're a little bit alike.
So when it comes down, it would be the city council to determine, as well as the district advisory council. Those are the two.
Yeah, you can't have a contract without two entities wanting to join it, yeah. The reverse would be true if it was, if you put it up to the vote, and the voters say you have to consolidate. That puts a lot of pressure on, and we don't have the option of, you know, not doing something.
I just was trying to
Spending
clarify in my
revenue.
brain, boards of health, but actually the boards of health are the representatives of those two entities,
Yep.
which are the city council and the
Yep.
district advisory.
So the district advisory, the only difference would be that the district advisory council would, as a body, review that contract and authorize the president or the chair of the district advisory council to sign it. In the city, you have a board of health is independent of the city government. And again, I'm not sure how your board of health is appointed. In Akron, the mayor appointed, the city council approved. That's how it was in Marion, so I'm assuming that's probably how it is here. So, yeah. So you'd have another layer of needing that approval, because the Board of Health itself doesn't have any money, so they can't say, well, we're going to commit resources. It's the money that they get from the city. So the mayor who appoints the board, you know, again, communication, clarity, you know, lead with the stuff that's going to be the challenge. Talk about the value, but, you know, recognize the challenge. All right, it's been my pleasure. Thanks.
If you have any follow-up questions, I would be happy to either answer them or find the resources to answer them. So I know that's a lot to consume this morning, but please, again, keep those dialogues going with, you know, the public that you encounter and get some of their thoughts as well. So and then we'll see what some of our next steps are as far as discussing this. So again, thank you for your time. It brought a lot of value to this topic. So